Silence is the most treacherous myth history ever wove. We imagine the samurai, armored in lacquer and steel, thundering across the plains. Yet behind every polished facade of male heroism lies a different battlefield, one often guarded by ghosts we refuse to name. Turn the gilded pages of Japan's martial past, peel back the layers of romanticized feudal conflicts, and you will find them. The Onna Bugeisha. Not mere bystanders, nor fragile ornaments, but fiercely trained warriors, their hands equally capable with the brush as they were with the deadly arc of the naginata. The prevailing Western image casts them as outliers, a tomoe-gozen here, a hojo weseko there, exceptions proving the rule of patriarchal dominance. But the historical truth of the 12th, 13th, and even 16th centuries reveals a collective reality. When war arrived, it claimed everyone, and the women of the warrior class were prepared to claim it back.
Our story begins in 1183, amidst the brutal Genpei War, a clash between the Taira and Minamoto clans that tore the archipelago apart. High in the mist-shrouded peaks of Shinano Province stood the meager fortress of the Kageyama, a minor family pledged to the Taira cause. Here lived Lady Chiyo, known not for her delicate silk robes, but for the calloused ridge beneath her thumb, a testament to relentless training. Her father, a stern man of tradition, entrusted defense of the ancestral land, a duty blind to gender. Chiyo's favorite weapon, the naginata, a long, elegant polearm, was an extension of her own calculated grace. Its reach compensated for a smaller stature, turning the defender's advantage into lethal geometry. She practiced daily on the damp earth, the steel humming in the thin mountain air. The air of peace, however thin, fractured when the scouts reported dust clouds staining the horizon. Minamoto riders, opportunistic predators seeking to eliminate Taira sympathizers, were descending upon the Kageyama lands. Chiyo's father was away, campaigning in the west.
She stood upon the battlements, the bitter wind whipping the sleeves of her armor, dark crimson laced with iron scales. Below, the remaining retainers, old men, young squires, and 3 other women versed in combat, looked to her for the resolve she radiated, cold and uncompromising. Fear was a tight knot in her belly, but it was overshadowed by the fierce certainty of purpose. The Onna Bugeisha fought differently. They rarely sought glory on distant fields. Their fight was intimate, visceral, the defense of the hearth, the children, and the lineage.
We fight not for victory, but for honor. Let our names be written in fire.
The assault began at dawn. The Minamoto, confident in their numerical superiority, charged the rickety wooden gates. The ringing sound of steel against steel echoed through the valley, a terrifying, syncopated rhythm of impending carnage. Chiyo led the internal defense. Unlike the sprawling skirmishes of the plains, this was a confined, desperate grind. Archers rained arrows down, guided by Chiyo's sharp, laconic commands, preserving their dwindling supply of shafts. When the gate splintered and the enemy poured into the courtyard, the real horror began. Chiyo plunged into the melee, the naginata a silver blur. She moved with practiced economy, sweeping legs, hooking throats, the long blade cleaving through the chaos. The attackers often hesitated. They expected the male warriors. The shock of being confronted by a figure in armor, small yet deadly, often granted Chiyo the half-second advantage she needed to deliver a fatal strike. She fought not with rage, but with the chilling precision of necessity. Mid-morning brought the crisis. A massive Minamoto warrior, his helmet crested with iron horns, smashed through the last line of defense near the main keep, roaring defiance. He was aiming for the women and children sheltering within. Chiyo saw the moment clearly, a slow-motion tableau amid the swirling dust. Dropping her empty bow, she seized her naginata from a fallen retainer and surged forward, her armor stained with the mud and blood of the battle. This was the moment of singularity, where personal survival and historical duty collided. She met the behemoth not head-on, but sidestepped his clumsy broadsword strike, utilizing the leverage of her polearm. She planted the butt of the naginata firmly, allowing his momentum to carry him past, then snapped the blade upward and inward. It was a flawless counter, learned from endless repetition, ending the threat instantly. A collective gasp rose from the defenders. The Minamoto force, seeing their leader fall, wavered. The momentum of the assault broke, and they retreated, pulling back their casualties, leaving the courtyard slick and silent. Chiyo stood over the fallen giant, the steel in her hand suddenly heavy, vibrating with the horror of the deed. The victory was immense, but the quiet that descended was thick with the scent of burning wood and sorrow. This moment, this fierce defense, was the typical, uncelebrated contribution of countless women throughout Japan's turbulent ages. Their names rarely entered the Taiheki or the official clan records. Their valor was often deemed a footnote and expected domestic resilience. The history books often simplify the warrior class dynamic, suggesting women's roles shrank abruptly. In reality, the shift was gradual, accelerating with the relative peace of the Tokugawa shogunate Edo period, when the focus transitioned from battlefield defense to domestic political management and the strict adherence to Neo-Confucian ideals. But in Chiyo's time and the centuries preceding, the Onna Bugeisha was a fact. Her historical presence disproves the myth that military prowess was solely the domain of masculinity. When the clan's survival hung in the balance, every trained hand was essential. The mythical aura surrounding figures like Tomoe Gozen, the beautiful, perfect warrior, served to sanitize the often brutal reality. Chiyo was not a goddess of war. She was a meticulous, desperate defender, one of many who ensured the continuity of their lineage through steel. As the years passed and the Kageyama family stabilized under the victorious Minamoto regime, Chiyo found herself facing a new battle, the war against erasure. Her deeds were whispered, yes, but often softened, recast as the valiant actions of a loyal wife, rather than a commander. She chose not to fully shed her armor. She dedicated her life not to peace, but to ensuring that the naginata jutsu, the art of the polearm, was rigorously taught to the young women of her clan, transforming personal history into foundational tradition. Chiyo's physical story ends, absorbed into the quiet rhythms of the restructured society. Yet her spirit, the necessity of the trained, vigilant woman protecting what is hers, did not vanish. It is a thread that runs unbroken through time, echoing perhaps in the stories of the determined women who led resistance during the Boshin War centuries later, or maybe if you listen closely to the rustle of leaves in any quiet, fortified valley, in the faint sound of polished steel cutting the air, waiting for the next history to unfold.